in association with Jaqua Lighting, inspired by the sun, moon and stars.
Thanks for staying with us. India's defense minister is in Moscow to hammer out a host of procurement issues ranging from missile defense systems to nuclear submarines. While there are many issues in dealing with Russia, it is still seen as the only country likely to share strategic technologies with India. Here's a report.
Russia's annual Victory Day parade, held in the month of May, is an awesome display of military power. This year's display was no less stunning given Russia's muscle flexing in Syria, which underscored the success of its military hardware in the unforgiving deserts of Arabia. Food for thought as India's defense minister, Arun Jaitley, starts talks with his Russian counterpart in Moscow. There's lots on the procurement agenda. India is expected to finalize plans to buy the S-400 Triumph air defense missile system for $5 billion. Also, a second nuclear-powered submarine. India wants to buy and build 4 more stealth brigades, and finalize a technology transfer issue with regard to building the Kamov 22-6T helicopter in India. Technology transfer is a ticklish issue, which has not only delayed the Kamov project, but also the agreement to jointly develop and build a 5th-generation fighter aircraft. The word from Russia is that India lacks expertise and skills in key areas. India thinks the Russians are backtracking on the agreement. Result, deadlock, which Jaitley will try and sort out. Supply of spares from Russia for the India Air Force's Sukhoi 30 MKI aircraft remains a sore point. There is talk of setting up a bonded warehouse in India to stock essential spares, but few details have emerged. Russia still lacks a credible private sector defense partner in India, unlike America's Lockheed Martin, which is tied up with the Tatas. But it's clear India has no illusions of the US under Donald Trump. The preference may be to thrash matters out with the Russians, since they are the only ones who've shared strategic technologies with India in the past, and can still be expected to do so in the future. Bureau Report, WION.
All right, with that, let me welcome Peter Topichkanov, the senior researcher and associate at the Carnegie Moscow Center. Thanks so much for joining us there, Peter. Also on the show with us is Ambassador Achal Kumar Malhotra. He's a former Indian ambassador to Armenia, former Indian diplomat. Thanks both of you for joining us. Peter, first let me come to you. Do you see any other dimension to India-Russia relationship apart from, defense and nuclear ties?
Of course, yes. The growing part of the cooperation between Russia and India is oil and gas. And it's quite successful agreement between Rosneft and SSR. This agreement will mean the long-term cooperation in the area of oil and gas between Russia and India. So this is one of the important areas of our cooperation.
All right. Ambassador Malhotra, what do you feel? Is this relationship more nostalgia driven, would you say?
Well, Ms. Sana, as Peter has rightly pointed out, the more important areas of our bilateral cooperation, namely defense and energy, I think there are many areas of global governance on which both the countries have convergence of views, and there are issues on which we can cooperate. Now, for example, both of us believe in a multipolar world, and both of us also believe that all the international institutions of governance, including United Nations, IMF and World Bank, etc., need to be reformed, and they should be reformed in a manner that they reflect the ground realities of contemporary world. And because these are old Bretton Woods institutions which belong to the 50s. So similarly on climate change and many other areas on which we have got convergence. Terrorism, for example, in the last St. Petersburg declaration, the two sides have shown that there is a lot of convergence of views on at least saying that, they're condemning terrorism in whatever form, on whatever basis, whatever may be the explanation. So the two sides see, convergence of views on how to condemn and how to look at this global phenomena.
So there is scope.
So there are many issues. This is a multi-dimensional.
Right. So you both agree there is scope. Much more. Multi-dimensional approach is needed. But if I can ask you then, sir, first, Peter, to you, if we were to look at what do these countries want from each other, why don't you just, for our viewers, help us understand what's in it for Russia when it deals with India? And then Ambassador Malhotra, I will come to you, ask you the very same question with India's perspective. Peter, first to you, what does Russia want from India?
Russia sees India as a long-term strategic partner. And I want to remember you that it was Putin's initiative supported by the Indian government under Atal Bihari Vajpayee to sign a strategic partnership agreement between Russia and India. And it's extremely important for both sides. Of course, for Russia, it's very important to have India as a strategic partner, I mean, in the area of military technological cooperation, and not only about relations between supplier and receiver, but also joint development of technologies. And BrahMos missile, it's a good example, proving that we can jointly develop new missiles, new technologies. But of course, there are obstacles, but what is important also for us to help both economies to develop rapidly. And there are problems in this area because both economies need foreign investment and money to boost our developments. And of course, there are problems in this area, especially in the case of Western sanctions against the Russian Federation. Under these sanctions, for India, it's quite difficult to have free trade and money transfers between two economies.
So, Ambassador Malhotra, then why is it? It's been 70 years now since the bilateral ties kicked off. Why is it there's so many things that need to be done? There is so much scope. Haven't both the countries tapped each other's potential? Clearly not. And what are those reasons? What is India looking at as far as getting benefits from Russia is concerned, forging better ties?
Well, Ms. Sana, as we know that historically, Russia has been the time-tested and tried friend of India.
That's
and probably we would like to see it remain so for all the times to come. Now we have to look at it sector-wise, and also there are areas, specific areas of cooperation, and there are areas of cooperation on issues of global importance. As far as defense sector is concerned, we all know that Russia has been very, very helpful and has made a lot of contribution in the development of our industrial and military complex. Most of the supplies to the Indian Army, the Indian Armed Forces have been from Russia, as much as probably 60%. And billions of dollars we have spent on procurements from Russia so far.
That's right.
Now, what we want at this stage is that we would like to this buyer-supplier relationship to undergo a transformation. We want it to evolve into a cooperation, into a relationship where we are involved in transfer of technology. There is a joint and co-production. And let me draw your attention to the St. Petersburg Declaration, where it was very clearly said that Russia has exported its modern technology to India, and we would now like to upgrade and intensify this cooperation through manufacture, co-production and co-development of military hardware.
That's right.
We have also made a commitment to each other to increase our military to military ties. Very soon we are going to have a trip, all with the participation of all three wings of the armed forces,
Right.
some joint exercises. So this is as far as the defense sector is concerned. On the whole, we would like to see Russia as a reliable partner, as it has always been with us, as an as a balancing act.
Right.
Today
right.
we really don't know. In the last 3-4 years, there have been certain misconceptions about the shifting loyalties, shifting alliances, shifting allegiances. We thought Russia is getting closer to China and
That's
Pakistan.
right. So lots
Russia
more
thinks we are
questions.
drifting towards
I've
United
got
States.
many
But I'm glad
questions.
that
We're
in
going
the
to
last
delve
2-3
deeper.
interact.
We'll delve deeper into all of that, but the key point that you made is that yes, the ties are old, but there is a need for transformation. That's a very important point. Take a look at these graphics first. Now, much of India's military hardware is of Russian origin, and it's across the Army, Navy and Air Force. For instance, Indian Army's Russian equipment, they include the Army that uses T-90 tanks and the BMP infantry combat vehicles. The AK-47 is standard issue in counterinsurgency operations in India. Artillery, anti-tank rifles, air defense guns are also important here. Now, India's Navy's equipment is INS Vikramaditya, which is a refurbished aircraft carrier. Then you have a Kilo-class diesel-electric submarines as well, Trivak-class frigates. Now we take a look at the Air Force equipment that India has, that is Su-30 MKI. It's a multi-role fighter aircraft, the MiG-29 fighter bomber, the Mi-17 V-5 transport helicopters are also used, and IL-76 strategic airlifter. Peter, if I can come to you, looking at the dynamics between India and the United States, where Russia feels that India is, virtually entering into a military alliance with the US, technology sharing has been one of the biggest concerns. How do you see that being addressed?
Of course, there are some Russian experts and even governmental officials who have concerns about the ties between India and Russia. But frankly speaking, I don't share these concerns because what you just showed in your graphs and pictures,
right.
The level of technological cooperation between Russia and India doesn't have competition, serious competition from the US side, because we can cooperate in the area of strategic technologies, including missile technologies, and the decision to expand the range of BrahMos missile and the decision to sell S-400 mean a lot and say a lot about the relations between Russia and India. And another very good example, very short, I'm sorry. India decided to join the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And the organization which was always quite not clearly anti-American, but at least quite critical about the US role in the Eurasian region. So it means that in this region, in the huge region from Europe to Asia, India and Russia may have the same understanding and the same interests.
Okay, but let's talk a bit further about these dealings with Russia. Long-standing grievance of the armed forces here in India is that the maintenance, spares, getting the equipment, spare parts is a long, tedious procedure. Example, the Sukhoi 30S aircrafts, the T-90 only assembled. There are a lot of difficulties that are faced as far as taking forward these deals are concerned to keep up with them. What would you say to that?
I would say that, of course, there are a lot of differences between our defense industries in Russia and in India. And one of the reasons of these difficulties is that Indian government decided to welcome private companies, and now they are important players in this defense industry. In Russia, still we have to deal with state-run huge corporations with its own very heavy bureaucracy. And it's quite difficult to deal with these huge institutions. But now Russia decided to change, slightly change the system to make it more flexible.
Okay, so there is movement to make things
operational.
better. Peter, got your point. Ambassador Malhotra, getting you in the conversation. Apologies, we lost you there for a bit. Are the Russians, what is the sense that you get? Are they not really comfortable when it comes to dealing with the private sector? And, you know, one complaint that Russians, they make often is that India lacks the tech expertise skills. I'm going to go to Peter with this as well, but Ambassador Malhotra, first you.
Well, Sana, I don't think this is true. I mean, the world has come to acknowledge our leadership in IT and other things. It is true that we are not very well known in the defense manufacturing field as yet, but that doesn't mean that a speculative assessment should be made before we actually set upon our feet in this direction. I think this is probably an excuse for dilly-dallying and delaying, and I hope we will be able to come over this sooner than later.
Okay. I still have last comments to take. Peter, first of all, let's talk about the two leaders, Vladimir Putin and Narendra Modi here in India. Both charismatic leaders, very decisive in their own right. Do you think that what the countries now need, especially India, needs to adjust perhaps to a new and a more positive phase in the Russia-China relations? Do you think that is the way forward?
I don't think that the relations between Russia and China make serious obstacles in for the relations and cooperation between Russia and India. I have very short and very clear example. In Russian-Indian history of our relations, never happened any case of espionage or attempts to get illegally to get military technologies. In the case of relations between China and Russia, such cases happened many times. So it means that we have limits in the of trust between Russia and China. For the relations between Russia and India, it's never happened, and I hope will never happen in our relations. So our trust, I would like to say, looks like limitless.
And Peter, very quickly, I forgot to ask you that there is a perception that India lacks the technical expertise. Is that the sense back there?
I think that, of course, Indian defense industry has limits in expertise and understanding, and mostly because of isolation and very independent politics after the Indian independence. So, for example, in the area of missile technologies, but now when India joined MTCR, Russia and India may boost the cooperation in the area of missile technologies.
All right. And Ambassador Malhotra, what do you think about these two leaders and the way they perhaps will take the ties forward? Do you think being in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization of the SCO is also going to give the ties that bit of a boost?
Well, yes, I think President Putin has invested a lot of into building up this relationship. In fact, you know, there was a pause in our relations, say from 1992 to about 2000. It was President Putin who was instrumental in making it a strategic partnership. And since then, we have been having annual summits. And this partnership has already been elevated to, you know, the special privileged partnership status. And on our side, we have a charismatic leader like Prime Minister Modi. I think two of them together definitely should be able to take this relationship further, and SCO is of course a new forum on which the two sides can meet, discuss, cooperate, and provide directions for the rest of the international community to move on. I am very optimistic. Unfortunately, there was a brief phase when there appeared to be some elements of mistrust having crept into our relationship. But I think in the last two summit meetings, these have been addressed very well. We are back on track. We have about $10.5 billion worth of, defense deals in the pipeline. This was one area. We must understand, Russia has been pushed into being cozy with China under particular circumstances, because Russia is under sanctions, and the oil prices are dipping, and the defense supplies are, so this is an area which pinches Russia. We are going to back.
Ambassador Malhotra, I get all your points, but we're completely running out of time. It's now time for us to wait and see what the Defense Minister comes back with, if he comes back with some solid deals with Russia. The key terms: long-term strategic relationship between the two countries and the need for transportation. Thanks so much, Petr Topichkinov and Ambassador Malhotra, for joining me here on the show. When we return...